Hey, folks. Today's episode brought to you by our favorite sponsor, sunsetlakesabade.com. They have all sorts of products to make this time of year a little bit easier for you, both in terms of what you can take to help you relax and also what you can gift for your loved ones or, people that you sort of like, or anybody really for that matter. All of their Sebade is grown without pesticides. They use integrated pest management to deal with those pests. They have great farming practices, regenerative farming. And what do they grow? They grow keef. They grow flour. They grow, pre-rolls, I guess. They don't come out as pre-rolls. They actually pre-roll them. But they also have tinctures to help you sleep, tinctures to help you relax, tinctures to help your pets relax. They've got gummies to help you sleep, gummies to help you relax, gummies to help you focus, and some gummies with a little THC to help you have, enough wherewithal to deal with your family during the holidays. They are a great company. They also have Sebade coffee and Sebade fudge, great gifts to give. Check it all out at sunsetlakesabade.com. If you use the code LEFTISBEST, you'll get 20% off. And don't forget, these are our favorite sponsor because they are movement partners. They have donated tens of thousands of dollars over the past couple of years to strike relief funds, to Planned Parenthood, to carceral reform, to refugee resettlement. They just gave $5,000 to the Vermont Food Bank. Just a great company, great product. And a great 20% off with the words, left is best, one word. And now time for the show.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Monday, December 8th, 2025. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Ben Freeman, director of the Democratizing Foreign Policy Program at the Quincy Institute, co-author with William Hartung of The $1 Trillion War Machine, How Runaway Military Spending Drives America into Foreign Wars and Bankrupts Us at Home. Also on the program today, Supreme Court hears Trump's bid to fire members of independent agencies. Take a guess how that's going to go. Senate expected to vote on ACA subsidies this week. It's expected to fail. Republicans starting to panic as Kushner joins the Skydance Paramount hostile bid for the WB. Trump suddenly says the Netflix WB deal could be a problem.
Huh.
I'm worried about antitrust.
Where's Lena?
FBI making a list of American extremists. And guess what? You're on it. If you're expressing anti-capitalism or anti-Christianity or anti-Americanism, if you're an adherent to a radical gender ideology, or if you are against immigration enforcement. Also on the program today, China's exports surge despite dropping shipments to the U.S. by a third.
Sounds like they're doing okay.
Trump to announce a $12 billion bailout for farmers, not coincidentally. Starbucks strike expands to 145 stores in 100 cities in this country. Don't buy there. 3-year-old is forced to serve as her own attorney in immigration court. And that boat that we killed all those people with a double tap back in September, according to the admiral who issued those orders, it was not headed to the U.S. Lastly, death toll in North Darfur, reportedly at least 60,000 in the last 3 weeks. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us at the beginning of the week. It is
Fun Day Monday.
Yes.
Yes.
So fun day.
Yes. Hello, Sam.
Yeah.
Hello to everybody in the audience as well. Look at that. I don't know. I'm just trying to. I'm workshopping different transitions, but
this is your.
I
this
don't
is
know.
like your happy Monday face.
It is. It is. I'm slightly slow. You know, you catch up on the news on Monday. I feel like we really hit like the swing of things tomorrow, but it feels
all right.
so
So
odd.
I'll see you then.
So, yeah.
We need to talk about marketing of the show. Maybe a little.
And if you're the one saying that to me,
I
that's
know,
a problem.
exactly.
Stay tuned for the advertisements as well, folks.
Oh boy! All right. Well, to the extent that we have anybody listening to us anymore,
Yep.
welcome. We got a lot to get to today. The economy again. We're still sort of like driving in the dark as we haven't gotten the economic numbers have not really caught up. We saw the private payrolls numbers underperformed dramatically from where people thought they were. I think there was a sense that there was going to be a 40,000 person job increase, and it ended up being, I think it was 30,000, negative 30,000. And again, this is a private survey, so you don't get a full sense of things. But the other issue, of course, is that we have seen that the economic numbers, broadly speaking, don't really capture what's going on in the economy because we have such a wealth concentration. Black Friday was the biggest Black Friday in history, but less in terms of dollars, but less products were bought, and unclear, which suggests less people buying stuff, but more concentrated in the hands of wealth. And here is Fox having to deal with some of like the other indicators that are coming up, like bankruptcies, which show how many companies are suffering, and presumably they're suffering because people aren't buying as much. And here is Fox doing their best to deal with this information.
Of high debt and even higher costs. Mom and pop bankruptcies are surging, new record. Over 2,200 have filed under the subchapter. Is it V or 5? I don't even know. Rules this year, up 8% compared to 2024.
Hold on for 1 second.
Okay, so Jacob, explain.
Just want to say that this is Fox Business News. That is why the guy did not know that subchapter 5.
Mom and pop bankruptcies are surging, new record. Over 2,200 have filed under the subchapter.
Twitter.
Is it V or 5? I don't even know.
Okay.
Something up with this video, so I was trying to play it from Twitter, but it wasn't letting me pause it there, so we'll just have to play it from here.
Okay.
It's like a relatively new way to declare bankruptcy. It came about in 2020. Is it representative of trouble among small businesses or not? What do you think?
No, it's not. And so I'm going to take issue with the entire framing of this segment.
Okay.
Take that, Brian.
I got up at 3 in the morning to write this segment.
It's not.
Give me breakfast.
Record bankruptcies.
What?
No.
It's an easy get out of jail card.
Yes, okay.
What?
So it's only been around 5 years.
4, actually.
4. Marcus. That's Marcus in the background.
Well, I guess he knows something about it too. You can write the segment next time.
It is a category, by definition, that made it easier to go bankrupt. Marcus is nodding. Yes, correct. So why wouldn't this number go up if people took advantage of it who it enabled people to go bankrupt easier? So
So they're
by
going
the
bankrupt.
very logic, it would go up because of the creation of this category. There's not enough data there even to say anything. It's like, yeah, record high, even though this category's only been in existence for 4 years.
All right.
Okay. Let me just explain what she's trying to say here.
That was 2 whole minutes on a major news network.
Good luck with that. Traditional business bankruptcy is Chapter 11. I'm sure people have heard of that. I hope. I don't know. Maybe they haven't. I grew up with a bankruptcy lawyer. So subchapter 5, it's a Roman numeral V for those of you who
For vendetta.
are on business channels. Subchapter 5 was instituted, and it has been around since 2020. You may not remember 2020, but the economy was shut down for half the year. And a lot of businesses went out of business, presumably could have used subchapter 5 at that time. The point is that in the 5 years subsequent to 2020, this is the highest number of mom and pop stores to file
since the once-in-a-lifetime pandemic that caused a major disruption to the economy and the closure of many, many businesses.
Now, there was also, to be fair, there was payroll, the PPP kept a lot of those businesses probably from going out of business at that time. Nevertheless, there wasn't a PPP in 2021, 2022, or 2023, or 2024.
I mean, if she's annoyed by this metric, how about this? Credit card debt reached an all-time high at $1.21 trillion at the end of the second quarter, for example. How month over month in the United States, delinquencies on car payments continue to rise to reach record highs.
Or you could even look to businesses that don't have access to subchapter 5 of chapter 11, because that is the small business, that provision is specifically the Small Business Reorganization Act of 2019. Year to date, in 2025, over 717 large companies have filed for bankruptcy, which surpassed the full year totals of 2021, 2022, and 2023.
It's just incredible to say that this metric is not, as she sputters this out, this is really uncomfortable to watch, that this metric does not actually measure the health of the economy when this whole channel is over-reliant on looking at the stock market. And the wealthiest 10% own over 90% of the stocks in this country. So those metrics are the ones that have been failures in terms of actually looking at people's pain. It's part of why the Biden administration wasn't able to connect on this, is because they were over-reliant on those same metrics.
There's also another category of bankruptcies called the mega bankruptcy, which is for companies with over $1 billion in assets. And that has reached 32 filings in the 12 months leading up to mid-2025, which is above the annual average of 23 from 2005 to 2024.
So only 20 years of data. So what's your point?
Yeah.
Well,
can't really judge. Don't make a conclusion off of that.
Let's just hear how, she's going to say, this is completely overblown.
In existence for 4 years.
All right. Hold
It's
on.
not bad. This is not evidence of anything.
All right, let me try to strengthen the case of this segment a little bit. I'll just add this in, all right? Chapter 13, bankruptcies, consumer bankruptcy cases, are up compared to recent years. So far, more than 180,000 cases have been filed this year, nearly 5% more than the first 11 months of last year. Marcus, so maybe the whole thing Dagan was talking about is meaningless, but you got some consumer...
Well, nothing she says is meaningless. I'll start with that.
Well, she proved me meaningless, but you now have to deal with this new data.
We need to acknowledge that high interest rates and tariffs have affected small businesses. Hard stop. We need to acknowledge that. We also need to acknowledge that this subchapter 5 is an easy, quick, less expensive, keep ownership of your entire business, flush the toilet, and move on process. And typically...
The idea, though, that people want to go into bankruptcy, even though their business is booming.
It's great, actually. That's why I'm doing it. It's because my business is doing so good.
People don't go into personal bankruptcy because it's fun. That's not why. There's no like a personal bankruptcy benefit either.
Those are the same people that are living in their mom's basement just so that they can collect a Medicaid card.
Exactly.
I call it a courtesy flush.
They're also business owners?
Yes, they're also small business owners that are filing and then filing both business and personal bankruptcy, just, to live off the government's teat.
Virulent denial going on at Fox Business News right now. We'll see how long that lasts. We've had these interest rates been up for quite some time. The idea that they're just hitting now is ridiculous. All right, couple of words from our sponsors, and then we'll be talking to Ben Freeman, co-author of The $1 Trillion War Machine, How Runaway Military Spending Drives America into Foreign Wars and Bankrupts Us at Home. It is December. There's a lot of hustle bustle. It's freezing cold these days in New York. I mean, it's not freezing cold, but it's cold for this time of year. And the wind...
The pond is literally frozen in Prospect Park.
Yeah, well, there you go. It's gift-giving time, however. And who deserves a gift that helps them relax in your life? Well, probably everybody. I don't know why anybody wouldn't deserve to relax. Here is the gift idea for you, and it is Cozy Earth. Their clothes, their sheets. I've got their sheets now. I've got their hoodie is my favorite hoodie. I wore the joggers this weekend. Ostensibly, I was going to go to the gym with Saul, but I had a toe problem. I don't need to get into that. Cozy Earth, they've got great socks. I mean, anything that you want to give as a gift and you want people to feel cozy. Their towels are super plush. They've got a new ribbed plush towel that is fantastic. Their sheets, like I say, are my favorite sheets that I've ever had because they are temperature regulating. They are made from viscose, which is from bamboo. It's super soft, but it's super breathable too. I don't know how it works, but that's the way it works. And they have a great holiday gift for cozy moments, the Bubble Cuddle Blanket. The Bubble Cuddle Blanket combines comfort and style with distinctly textured bubble design and ultra soft faux fur feel. Featuring an extended plush pile and mid-weight construction, perfect for snuggling by the fire, movie nights with family, or adding a touch of luxury to any room. It's a gift that makes every day feel like a special occasion. And the beauty is Cozy Earth purchases are risk-free. They have a 100-night sleep trial. You try them out. If you don't love them, return them hassle-free. 10-year warranty, because once you feel this level of comfort, you want it to last a decade. Thanks to Cozy Earth for sponsoring this episode. Give the gift of everyday luxury this holiday season. Head to CozyEarth.com. Use code MajorityReport for up to 40% off. Just be sure to place your order by December 12th. You got a couple more days for guaranteed Christmas delivery. Listening after the 12th, don't worry, code Majority Report still works year-round for 20% off. And if you get a post-purchase survey, be sure you mention that you heard about Cozy Earth from this program. Give the gift of comfort that lasts beyond the holidays and carries into a cozy new year. Also sponsoring the program today, ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a great service that makes it super easy for you to connect with a great doctor across various different fields and schedule at your convenience in a way that makes it easy for you. They have a, look on the calendar, see what's available, click on it, no going back and forth. And also have it tell you whether they accept your insurance or not. And ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and click to instantly book an appointment. It is awesome. ZocDoc lets you book in-network appointments with more than 100,000 doctors across every specialty. You can filter for doctors who are near you. You can filter for doctors who take your insurance. You can filter for doctors who are rated as having a good bedside manner, or doctors who have good listening skills, or, short wait times, whatever it is. And you can see their actual appointment openings, choose a time slot that works for you, click and instantly book a visit. Appointments made through ZocDoc also happen fast, typically within 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even get same-day appointments. I've had the same doctor for years and years, but I was out of town and needed a dentist, and ZocDoc to the rescue. Got one that was great quality dentist. I had an emergency, crown issue. And took my insurance, bingo, bango. I know you guys have both used ZocDoc.
Oh, yeah. I found my dentist through ZocDoc.
I want to thank ZocDoc for sponsoring today's episode. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments. Go to ZocDoc.com/majority. Find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/majority. ZocDoc.com/majority. Emma, OneSkin.
Yes, I would like to thank OneSkin for sponsoring today's episode. If you are like me, your skin needs some extra care this time of year. I mean, gosh, it's dry, it's cold. You got maybe some sun damage from the summer and things like that. It can feel like nonstop stress to your system, and that's why I continue to rely on OneSkin. I've talked about this before. I love that OS1 face, and especially that OS1 eye, which is just so light and creamy and good on that very sensitive skin around your eyes. It's invaluable to
it's OneSkin. I didn't. Now
you figured it out? Okay. OS1. Yeah.
Okay.
OneSkin. And they've got the OS1 face. They've got the OS1 eye. It's excellent. And you have longevity benefits. It's powerful. The skincare benefits are great, and you just need a few simple steps. I mentioned this. I love that OneSkin OS1 face thing. It comes in this reusable shell, which is really great. And the eye stuff. I've had difficulty finding an eye cream that does not cause irritation or sensitivity for me. But the OS1 eye is really helpful. It's great for preventative things like with wrinkles and all that stuff, elasticity. At the core is their patented OS1 peptide, the first ingredient proven to target senescent cells, the root cause of wrinkles, crepiness, and loss of elasticity, which are all key signs of skin aging. And these results have now been validated in 5 different clinical studies. I've noticed a little bit more brightness, the skin around my eyes in particular, a little bit less elastic in that way. It's easy to use. You just cleanse, you pat your skin dry, and you apply twice daily. It's easy to add it to your daily routine. And for a limited time only, OneSkin just launched their limited edition holiday sets, including the Nightly Rewind gift set, which is just one of those rare gifts that's both impressive and genuinely useful, providing an upgrade to anyone's nightly routine. It features their best-selling face moisturizer, their new peptide lip mask, a cool gua sha tool, and each component of their set is designed to work together as your body enters its natural nightly repair mode, helping renew skin at the cellular level for a stronger, smoother, and more resilient skin. That is a great gift, by the way, these limited edition holiday sets from OneSkin. This season, don't just moisturize, support your skin at the cellular level with OneSkin. For a limited time, try OneSkin for 15% off using code MAJORITY at oneskin.co/majority. That's 15% off at oneskin.co/majority with code MAJORITY. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please help us out and tell them the Majority Report sent you. Try OneSkin today. Link down below in the episode and YouTube descriptions and at majority.fm.
We'll put all those links there. And don't forget, it's your support that makes this show possible. You can get the show ad-free by going to jointhemajorityreport.com. Okay, quick break. When we come back, Ben Freeman, co-author of The $1 Trillion War Machine, How Runaway Military Spending Drives America into Foreign Wars and Bankrupts Us at Home. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report. It's a pleasure to welcome to the program Ben Freeman. He is the director of the Democratizing Foreign Policy Program at the Quincy Institute and co-author with William Hartung of the recently released $1 Trillion War Machine, How Runaway Military Spending Drives America into Foreign Wars and Bankrupts Us at Home. Ben, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start where I think the most obvious place to start, and your book starts there as well, when we're talking about the war machine in this country, is with Eisenhower. In 1961, as he's headed for the door, he warns people of the military-industrial complex, which originally, my understanding is the phrase was the military-congressional industrial complex. Let's start there and just maybe talk about what it was that he was worried about and what it has become, which is, I think even for him, would be sort of shocking.
Yeah, Sam, you're exactly right. In Eisenhower's explanation of it, there was this sort of iron triangle, this collaboration between Congress, between the Pentagon, and between corporations who were profiting off the Pentagon's budget. And he saw this system as being circuitous and sort of self-reinforcing, that if you played by the rules as a member of Congress, then you would go on to work for one of these firms, either as a lobbyist or directly for them. They would pay you a lucrative salary to drive more and more contracts back to those firms. What's happened since then is really the reason why we wrote this book. And in those over 60 years since, we've seen that system expand well beyond those few players and really encompass everything you can possibly think of, from sporting events to Hollywood, the gaming industry, the tech sector, you name it. Wherever you go these days, the military-industrial complex is there.
Talk about sort of what was the impetus? I mean, we gear up to fight World War II. And essentially that impetus becomes like a self-licking ice cream cone.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. I mean, when you look at the build up to World War II, we needed a lot of equipment and we needed it really quick. So we turned to the industries that we had here in the U.S. We turned to the automotive industry and we said, well, instead of making just cars, can you make some military equipment for us? Can you make things that can get our troops over to Europe? And, we turned the industry on its head then. What we didn't realize is that when the war ended, that the industry wasn't going to turn away. You couldn't just flip a switch and turn this, gigantic war machine off. And so, especially because that war machine was very lucrative during World War II and in the wars after. So what we saw was this system then that ultimately gets created where you have all of these jobs, all of these economies that are surrounding these wars, and it becomes self-perpetuating. That when you have all of that infrastructure in place, you need wars to justify it. You need a conflict, or you need a monster overseas to destroy to justify all that spending. And what we talk about in the book is that in these last 60 years since Eisenhower gave that message, we've just been doing that over and over and over again, creating more and more monsters to justify all this. Let's
start with the I guess, incentive structure. There's parallel incentive structures for all of this, which is why it exists in the way that it does and is expanded. How we have military contractors in every state in some fashion, or a base, or something to that effect. Talk about that, because I think at one point, like Bernie Sanders, was talking about like a base in Vermont. I mean, he is traditionally a very anti-war politician, one of the sort of the rare ones. But if you've got an employer who is the foundation of like one of your cities or towns, it's very difficult to say we should close that one.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, over 100 years ago, another guy, even before Eisenhower, there was a guy named Smedley Butler famously said, "War is a racket." And he's right. He was right then. Over 100 years later, he's still right. War is a racket today. And unfortunately, everybody's in on it. As you mentioned, every state, every congressional district, they've got some jobs to one extent or another tied to the U.S. military. Tied to Pentagon contractors. And this is really a key when it comes to the lobbying in the military-industrial complex. Pentagon contractors can tell you exactly how many jobs are in your congressional district tied to any one of their specific weapons. One of the greatest examples of this is with the F-35 program. The F-35, this is just one aircraft program. The F-35 claims jobs in 48 states in the U.S. and almost every single congressional district as well. And they can come into any congressional office and tell you exactly how many jobs in that congressional district are from this program. And what they're doing when they do that, they're sending a clear message to you. You vote against this program, you're voting against jobs at home, you're voting against your constituents, your voters. And if you do vote against that program, Lockheed Martin is sure to let those folks know. So it becomes this, as you previously said, a self-licking ice cream cone. You're not going to bite the hand that feeds you. You're not going to go after those jobs in your own district. So what we see year after year then is all of these members of Congress supporting this F-35 program, not because it's a well-performing fighter jet. This is
like 50% fail rate, isn't it? Right. Something like that. I mean, like it literally has a 50% fail rate.
Right. My friend at the Simpson Center, Dan Grazer, he put out a report. He called it the part-time fighter jet. It can only really work to its full capacity about a third of the time. And yet every year we spend billions and billions of dollars buying more and more of these planes. So it's another reason why we wrote this book, Sam, is that the system isn't making us safer. We're spending more and more and more on the military every year, and we're getting less and less security from it.
Where do you see that beginning to turn? I know that, in the aftermath of World War II, you have the explosion of, even the aerospace industry, and that expands really quickly, right? And it's almost like the industry begins to grow in these areas of the country until it gets so big. And you talk about this in the 1990s, where there were these mergers, where then they're able to leverage that and maintain their size to a point where now it's just basically like they're kind of running the show. Would you say the 90s is the tipping point when there was all of this consolidation?
The 90s was a huge point. Yeah. That's a great question and a great point. The 90s is a key pivotal moment in all this. The 90s, it was the so-called peace dividend eras, right? Or the end of history, whatever we want to call it. We'd won the Cold War, peace was breaking out everywhere. And so, Clinton's reducing the Pentagon budget. And, there was a clear message. He was saying, some of you contractors might go out of business. And what ended up happening was a period of extreme consolidation. And the ultimate result of it is you get the primes that we talk about today, the Lockheed Martins, Boeings, the Raytheon, General Dynamics. And these are the prime contractors that really control a lion's share of all the contracting money coming out of the Pentagon. And then what happens, I think another key point in this march towards the privatization of the military is the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Really, if you look at those conflicts, those were the first two conflicts where we really saw the privatization of war. We saw, wartime contracting just going wild. We saw the rampant corruption, literally bags of cash, piles of money just disappearing in these conflicts. And a big reason for that is because we had slashed the active duty military, and we had this idea that we were going to rely more and more on contractors. We learned over the years of those conflicts that was a flawed system, and yet we kept going anyways. And that helped us to get to the point where we're at today. We're now 54% of the military's budget goes not to the troops, it goes to contractors.
So, all right, there's a lot to unpack. That one, did that consolidation, ostensibly it's about paring things down, but all it ended up doing was creating 5 behemoths that are, in some respects, because they're so concentrated, they control so much of the billions and billions and billions in dollars. We're up to almost basically our annual budget is about $1 trillion now, hence the name of your book. That they become too powerful on some level to rein in, like that concentration. It seems like they're just wielding too much power because, I got to imagine the amount of money they could spend on lobbying. I think you in the book say there's about 1,000 of these war lobbyists, and there's about 4 anti-war lobbyists, I guess. I mean, I think maybe less. I'm sorry, maybe just slightly more, but. So is that also like an element as to what keeps this machine going, that level of concentration there on these things?
I think that's absolutely right. And the way we describe it is that these firms effectively operate like an autoimmune response to any sort of change at the Department of Defense. And that, if any new technology comes in, any new players, they have a built-in system to suppress change, to fight anybody that wants to cut these programs. They have, as you mentioned, they have nearly 2 lobbyists for every member of Congress. So, they can double team your member of Congress just about any time they want. They're spending over $100 million every single year there just on lobbying. But that's just the beginning of it. They're spending tens of millions of dollars a year on think tanks. My colleague Nick Cleveland Stout and I at the Quincy Institute, we've chronicled this a lot. You can't sleep on think tanks' influence in this space either. And it goes beyond that. Again, it goes into sporting events. The Pentagon's working directly with Hollywood. If you've seen Top Gun 2, you might have noticed that Lockheed Martin's logo flashes on the screen in the middle of Tom Cruise, crashing a plane to the ground. Wherever you go, they have this influence machine that's just baked in now to make sure that the money keeps flowing to them and it keeps out the change. What's interesting now, and I think to Emma's question about the 90s consolidation, we're in another change period where we have the defense tech bros who are coming in and really challenging these prime contractors right now. And the prime contractors are resisting them tooth and nail. But whether they like it or not, the Elon Musk, the Peter Thiels, the Palmer Luckies of the world, they're here. And now they're getting a bigger and bigger slice of the Pentagon pie every year.
Well, I do yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to stay before we get to the tech stuff on this, and we should say the book is in 3 sections, or one being the cost of the war machine, the second being the selling. I want to just touch a little bit more on the selling of the war machine, because everybody is so invested in it. It's like too big to fail on some level. Right. You mentioned like the relationships that they're developed in Hollywood and this ongoing, and this is something Greg Mitchell, we've had on a couple of times about some of his documentaries where he talked about the war efforts and the use of propaganda in the context of the bomb, of the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Our entire media, it seems, is beholden to a lot of these companies, in particular because of just from advertising revenue. Like there's nobody who's not getting paid by them, and in some fashion or another. You have the Congress people who their districts depend on it, on this financing. Media, there's no, is there, do we even have like a pillar of society that is not sort of like infected by this?
I think you and I, the American public, frankly, it's really to your point, it's really everywhere you go. And, I didn't even talk about the media yet, but, we have a chapter in the $1 Trillion War Machine that's explicitly about media. And when you look at mainstream media coverage of questions of war and peace, my God, man, like it's so biased towards these defense contractors. And whenever they happen to interview one of these folks, the CEO of a defense contractor, they just bend over backwards to be nice to them and not be critical. But at the end of the day, these are war profiteers. But the reason they're nice is because very often they're making multi-million-dollar ad buys for these networks. There's the new stealth bomber, got its own Super Bowl commercial. That's a couple $1 million just right there. Major mainstream media, newspaper outlets are running full-page ad from these folks. And so, the media is on the take, mainstream media is on the take from this too. So you're not getting it there.
And the military, the former military that they interview in any type of war or any type of like sort of military situation, the vast majority of them sit on the boards of these companies.
Exactly. And cushy board seats where they're making six-figure salaries to do very, very little else than talk to the media. And it's not just them, too. I mentioned the think tank funding issue before. A lot of the think tank experts that appear regularly on mainstream media outlets, they work at organizations who get a majority of their funding from the Pentagon or from Pentagon contractors. So do you really think they're going to give, this purely objective vision of what should happen in this conflict? No, they're going to tell you that, we need more arms going to these countries, more arms sales, more U.S. military involvement.
And when, just to talk about the tech piece of this, it's not necessarily anything new, right? I mean, I believe that this was written about in the book Palo Alto by Malcolm, I'm forgetting his last name, Harris, thank you. When they spoke a little bit about how Cold War spending really built up Silicon Valley and those tech companies. I think Steve Wozniak, wasn't his dad at Lockheed Martin or something like that? I might be incorrect about that. But there's a lot of ties with the growth of the tech industry out west and these defense contracts. So like, how does that play into your analysis? Because a lot of this is very fluid, and it seems almost like now with the technology Palantir piece, it's almost the same dynamic that we spoke about where they consolidated in the 90s. They're big enough now that they run the show.
Right. It is such a good point. And if you look at this over time, there's real ebbs and flows to it. It's exactly what you're saying. A lot of the seed money for some of these firms, originally came from the Pentagon. You look at DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. A lot of that technology finds its way into Silicon Valley and vice versa. So they had a very good relationship there for a while, but that really changed. Prior to the last few years, I would say in the last 2 to 3 years, especially, there were kind of frigid relations between the Department of Defense in Silicon Valley in the tech sector. There's some famous incidents where tech companies were just flat out saying they didn't want to work for the Department of Defense. It just wasn't worth it. DoD wasn't operating on the timeline of tech companies. I hate to keep beating up at on the F-35. I don't. I love beating up on the F-35, but I'll keep doing it again. The F-35 has been in development for almost 25 years. And that's just insane. If you think about that in the tech space, like we didn't have iPhones when the F-35 first started, that goes so far back. So for the longest time, the tech sector said, we're not going to work with you, DoD. It's just not worth it. But that's all changing with this administration, especially. When you look at the Trump administration, Trump's biggest backer, Elon Musk, huge force there. JD Vance, one of his mentors, is a guy named Peter Thiel, founder of Palantir, other firms. The Secretary of the Army is another VC guy too. So you have all these just high-ranking officials in this administration that are coming straight out of the tech sector. So that's why I think we're at this really pivotal moment for tech, where if it's not an outright tech takeover, there's at least going to be a huge chunk of the pie, that Pentagon budget in the coming years, that's going to the tech folks.
Do you think that's going to eat into the the so-called prime ones, that the big five, or are they just going to expand the pie essentially and sort of complement each other? I mean, I'm old enough to remember when Google's saying was "do no evil" or something, and it feels like, particularly when you're talking about Palantir and Musk, like doing evil is sort of almost like the business plan.
Yeah, you know, it's funny you say that, because I'll bring up another tech guy, Palmer Luckey, who has had some really he's the if you use the Oculus, the origins of the Oculus lie in Palmer's Luckey garage, and so he's a brilliant tech guy, but he founded a company called Anduril. And, he's really gotten into the cutting edge of this defense tech space. And he has a lot of choice quotes about exactly what you were saying there, Sam. And, one of them is like, you need guys that are sick in the head like him. This is him talking about himself, who are willing to create these devices that he knows tech that he knows will be used to kill people. And the sort of morality of Silicon Valley has kind of followed along that path. 10 years ago, if somebody said that in Silicon Valley, they'd have been booed out of the room. That would not have been okay. But nowadays in the defense tech space, that's perfectly commonplace. So to your point about what, my prediction going forward, what we're seeing right now is that a rising Pentagon budget is lifting all boats. Right. The old guard primes, they're getting more and more money, and the new defense tech startups, like companies like Andurils and the Palantirs, they're getting more and more money too. But I don't think that can go on forever. I think you're quickly going to see, as these tech folks get in, they are producing better equipment. They're producing unmanned systems. They're producing more of them quicker than the old guard primes are. So at some point, I do think they're going to start displacing them.
Interesting. I mean, we have had such an extraordinarily large increase in the military budget, it feels like, over the past 4 or 5 years. I mean, maybe less than 10 years, I feel like it's increased by 30%.
Yeah, it's been extraordinary, and then this is why we had the title for our book, $1 Trillion War Machine. Believe it or not, we had this title 2 years ago, and we thought we were being very clever, and that this was going to be a prophecy. We were going to write this book, and then eventually it hit $1 trillion. We didn't realize that when Trump passed the big beautiful bill this past summer, there was over $100 billion in excess Pentagon funding in that bill. So for the first time, that put the Pentagon budget over $1 trillion. So our book went from being prophecy to just being descriptive about the world we live in now. So we really have, you're spot on. We've seen an extraordinary growth in the Pentagon budget. And again, unfortunately, because of all these forces that we're talking about here, I don't really see that changing anytime soon.
Well, let's talk about, like, you do have a section, a final chapter of the book that we're at a crossroads in some respect when you talk about the future of the war machine. And at one point you do write about, how we would get from war machine to peace machine. What would be where is the weak point in this sort of like non-benevolent cycle, I guess, that we have? And in terms of players, and then secondarily, where is the first cuts located? In other words, we have 750 some odd bases around the world.
Right. That's a good start.
Well, I mean, because that seems to be I guess what I'm asking is, like, where's the easiest place to cut in terms of the various stakeholders that are making money off of this?
I love the overseas bases as a good first place to start because look, at the end of the day, overseas bases are more expensive than U.S. military bases here in the U.S. It costs a lot of money to get people over there. It costs a lot of money to get things over there. All that's more expensive. And there's no constituency over there that's voting for Congress that benefits from those bases. Like we were talking about earlier, you try to cut a base in anywhere in the U.S. and the 2 senators from that state and the local representatives, they're going to raise hell about it because they don't want to lose the jobs and all the economy that surrounds their base. You can't make the same argument for an overseas military base. Those voters in Guam, they're not, those folks don't get a vote here in the U.S. And so what I think the easiest politically palatable place to start cuts are in those overseas military bases. At the end of the day, we have tens of thousands of military personnel overseas. Some countries have over 10,000. Germany and South Korea and Japan specifically have right around 10,000 folks, and just in a single country. And those are good candidates to start for cuts. Beyond them, I'd say some of these big legacy programs that are just chewing up a lot of the budget. The F-35 is a prime example. We've already talked about how this is a plane operating on 2000s level technology. So that's a great place for cuts. I think aircraft carriers are another place. One aircraft carrier is costing around $13 billion now, and China is creating hypersonic missiles and drone swarms, things like that, to counter them. And so, for China, our carriers are, largely very expensive targets for them to take out. So I think that's another candidate too. It's programs like that, I think, where it's clearly a Cold War era technology that there's plenty of savings to be found in the Pentagon budget.
Well, so go ahead.
Who are the stakeholders in those foreign bases, though? Like who's going to give the most pushback if you were to close those bases, and what would they say?
Those foreign governments. It's a great question, and this is when I'm not analyzing the Pentagon budget. My first book, which is also over my shoulder, was on the foreign lobbying industry in the U.S. And what I've seen now for decades is that whenever the U.S. goes to close a foreign military base, that foreign government starts lobbying like crazy to make sure it doesn't happen. And a very similar system to what we have with the military-industrial complex takes place. That foreign government hires big-time DC lobbying and public relations firms. Those firms have former members of Congress on their payroll who then they get paid big bucks to go in and lobby their former colleagues to keep those military bases open. So what we need, we got to push back against that, because again, there's no constituents there. So members of Congress can say no to some of those lobbying and PR firms.
Well, it's also very similar to how the United States has made its empire in the past, 100 years or so, where you make these countries that maybe are developing dependent on our sort of investment. And then when that goes away, then that creates some sort of chaos and things like that. But it is, I think, notable that the United States is overextending itself kind of in 2 separate areas. One, with the continuation of that kind of foreign policy needing to have a footprint everywhere. And then 2, it's also the idea that there's this massive middleman taking out so much value versus what China's doing, which is much more direct state control of these kinds of things and not having this major profit incentive that's taking all of the value out. It's wildly inefficient too, as evidenced by the Pentagon failing an audit literally every single year, but we keep giving them more money. So it's just really, it's like a criminal racket. It's the most expensive one that I can think of.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And the Pentagon, to be clear, the Pentagon has never passed an audit, not once. It's not like, it just failed the most recent one. No, it has literally never passed one. So we know it's not auditable, and we know to your point about the middlemen. I think that's such a good way to describe this system. Because these contractors, they're getting hundreds of billions of dollars of taxpayer money every year, and they're reporting record profits, and they're using some of their profits more and more for stock buybacks to keep driving up their stock prices. Lockheed Martin, for example, just a few years ago, spent billions of dollars, billions with a B, just on stock buybacks and just to drive up that price. Nothing about that helps you and I be safer. Nothing about that, defends us from, China, Iran, or any other boogeyman that's out there. And yet that's the system that we're sitting in when it comes to military spending, where you have billions of dollars that stem from it just going to stock buybacks.
How much of our understanding of those boogeymen is a function of this industry wanting to sell weapons?
It's so much of it. And I think, one of the points that we make in the book is that you can't justify $1 trillion military budget without having monsters in the world, whether they're real or imaginary. You have to convince the American people that there is a threat out there, a very, very serious threat to their life and livelihood, to their children, to their family, an existential threat to them. Otherwise, if you don't convince them of that, then suddenly people start to ask, really hard questions like, well, instead of spending on defense, should we maybe spend more on healthcare, education, childcare? I have a 1 and a 3-year-old, and the cost of childcare is just absurd these days. And you're getting families out there just getting so little help with that. And so if you don't have those monsters, then people start asking those questions. And so what the military industrial complex does an extraordinary job of is creating those monsters abroad for us to destroy. And, whether it's China, whether it's Iran, whether it's Russia or whoever the enemy of the day might be, they have to have that to justify the system. Once the veil is pulled back and you realize, Wizard of Oz moment, those monsters aren't so evil after all, then the whole system can crumble.
Well, that is where we're talking about. We can bring in Israel here. I think that's important just to modernize this. I think it's very important as us on the left to not speak about Israel as controlling our foreign policy, but as it being more of a function of the $1 trillion war machine and an outpost for us in the Middle East, operating in that manner. There's another great book, The Palestine Laboratory, I cited all the time, by Anthony Lowenstein, that talks about how weapons are tested in Gaza and had been prior to the start of the genocide. And when you see how younger people, and it really is even younger Republicans, they talk about it differently than we do, but in the voting population, they've lost, the military industrial complex has lost that messaging battle as it relates to the Middle East for everybody under 40. And so I guess I'm just wondering if you could reflect on how, there's no historical parallel to the relationship between the U.S. and Israel. It's very, very specific, and it feels very specific to your thesis as well.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, Israel is the #1 recipient of U.S. arms abroad, and has been for decades. Has the special relationship, has U.S. military backing, and to your point, that's such a good point that I think folks don't recognize, that Gaza has been a testing lab for arms makers for years. Not just since October 7th. And so you kind of have, something of an experimental lab that's part of, an offshoot of the military industrial complex there. But I'm hopeful, to your point too, Emma, there about the next generation. When it comes to the military industrial complex, I think, it's trite to say, but the children are the future. Because they don't trust the system anywhere near to the level that folks did who grew up during the Cold War and kind of had this blind, Top Gun level, support the military no matter what. I think they're seeing more and more how money is being wasted here, where the corruption is, how we're just wasting so many taxpayer dollars on this. So, to Sam's earlier point about, what can happen next, how do we tried to spin this in the last chapter of the book to provide a glimmer of hope that the next generation is much more opposed to this than previous generations were.
How do you what's your perspective on the sort of a trans ideological or partisan alliance on these things? I mean, how you know, because there's a lot of folks on the right who appear on some level to be anti-war, though it seems also rather selective in certain instances. But what is your sense of like how of the viability of that and how it would work? I mean, it's one thing for Bernie Sanders and Rand Paul to bring up legislation to stop something. That to me seems, you know, like there's a real material benefit to Sanders pairing with Rand Paul, but I'm not so sure that necessarily like there's value in us joining forces with libertarian YouTubers,
Right?
Because they can't necessarily do anything that, you know, they can operate on their own and we can operate on our own. I'm curious as your perspective on that across the sort of the spectrum of different possible alliances.
Yeah, I think you know a lot is made kind of about the anti-interventionist right, the rise of the anti-interventionist right, and you know folks like Tucker Carlson, you know Marjorie Taylor Greene, and you know I do think some of that we're making more of it than it's actually there, because if you still look at the way, to your point, Sam, look at the votes. Don't look at what people say. Look at how they vote. Look at the legislation they're introducing. You know, when it comes to put pen to paper on this stuff, are they still supporting this system or not? And I actually had a really good conversation with, I'm going to name drop another member, Thomas Massey, who I think has actually been just excellent on these issues. And we presented, the Quincy Institute presented an award to him along with Ro Khanna as being just two wonderful voices for peace in Congress. And you know, he's supporting AUMF's authorization for use of military force. And you know, he has been a voice that's really questioned why the U.S. is involved in wars. He's coming at it from a different angle than a lot of progressives are, right? You know, he's coming at it from more of an America first angle. Like, what are America's interests when we get involved in these foreign conflicts? And so it might be a different justification for it, but I think folks like him have proven that they're willing to vote in a more restrained direction. And so I say, like, they're still a minority. They're still a minority in the Republican Party. So there's still not this real upsurge of, you know, Republican non-interventionists, but maybe that'll change. And now Marjorie Taylor Greene's leaving. So now there's one fewer.
Right.
Yeah.
Ben Freeman, the book is The $1 Trillion War Machine, How Runaway Military Spending Drives America into Foreign Wars and Bankrupts Us at Home, co-written with William Hartung. We'll put a link to that at majority.fm and in the podcast and YouTube descriptions. Thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Thanks, Ben.
All right, folks. That's it for the free show. Just a reminder, it's your support that makes this show possible. When you become a member of the Majority Report at jointhemajorityreport.com, not only do you get the free show, but you get it free of ads, and you get to I am the show.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, for instance, like, you know, here's Occam's Blazer says, I found my therapist through ZocDoc before they were sponsoring Majority Report. She has helped me so much work through my issues and become a noticeably better husband and feel better and connected.
That's great.
Nice. Nevertheless, you could avoid those ads and the audio portion of the program by becoming a member at jointhemajorityreport.com. Also, justcoffee.coop right now. It's their 30% sale. You can use the coupon code majority, but you don't need to. But we'll drop it in there anyways to let them know that you came from us, but also buy the Majority Report blend. Try different blends. Try different single origin coffees. Now's the time to do it at 30% off. I know Matthew Film Guy, he goes and buys a 5-pound bag right now.
Oh,
this
wow.
time. Yep.
All right. That's a good investment. Before you go, Matt, I just wanted to, I remembered this. I'm supposed to plug when I'm doing shows. If you want to check me out on Abby Phillips' show tonight from 10 to 11 p.m. Eastern, I will be on CNN tonight. So there's that. First time.
Nice.
So check it out, folks.
Open conversation is the way of humans connecting.
That's what we believe over here.
Yeah.
David Griscom and I had some open conversation about the people that call betting prediction markets in order to make a lot of money off of it. And also...
we got to have somebody on to talk about this relationship with CNN because it is freaking nuts.
Should I call that out tonight? Right off the rip?
Yeah. So what are the odds on here? What's the spread?
Yeah, you should use the word like, I'm going to bet you.
Yeah.
That, you just preface everything with that.
Yes.
What are the odds? I'll bet you.
Yeah.
We need to parlay this into something greater.
And we also got into the Somalis trolling Stephen Miller and Donald Trump. I don't think that, like, all the people who are saying, like, I saw Neo Berg, Zionist, saying, like, what are the Somalis getting at with these jokes? Like, not understanding what they're meaning when they say Minnesota was promised us 3,000 years ago.
Oh, my God.
And the amount of humor in the Somali Minnesota population is greater than both the Christian fascists and Zionists put together. And
Oh, my God.
Astounding.
By far. Also, I should say, in full disclosure, Kalshi, is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
They reached out to us. Did you know this?
No.
They reached out to us to partner
Buy
with
us off.
to partner with us. This is before, like, I think we've ever, like, I had ever even heard of them. Like,
Did you think it was cereal, like healthy cereal?
No, Kashi.
Wait, I like
I'm not
Kashi.
going to do any healthy cereal around it.
I vetoed it.
No, but they, because I had to click through to find out what it was, and I realized it's like a poly market, and we don't. I don't know if I ever wrote back to them and said not interested. I think I just ignored the email from them. But they were making a big push. This was probably, I think I saw this like a month before the CNN thing, so probably last month.
Oh, wow.
It
must
takes
have not seen any of our coverage of this kind of thing.
No. That happens a lot. Like we think we may be great partners for you guys. Oh, it's because you were making so much fun of Poly Market.
Right. Probably, right.
You're looking for a competing way to gamify everything.
Those people just look at attention metrics. No content.
No, not at all. I mean,
they just run it through an AI, probably.
Exactly.
What are the views?
What? Yeah, exactly. And look, if you like to gamble, that is all well and good. But the
not
idea
on this kind of stuff. Not on this kind of stuff.
Well, but the idea that just sort of like
genocide.
I mean, it is the idea that a news organization, would
partner with them
is psycho.
Deeply disturbing. Yeah, they're gonna incorporate odds into their coverage.
Like,
Insane.
I mean, even like obviously, like a progressive news organization, I think it's more problematic because I think our values are such that this is not a good thing for society.
Yes.
CNN promotes a lot of things that are not good things for society. But the idea that they would integrate it with their news is psycho.
They're going to bring Jimmy the Greek on to be like, what's the over-under on ACA deaths?
Exactly.
Well, I think that's when we'll fall out of love with Harry Emden, is when he starts doing Kalshi odds in the middle of his polling segments.
Oh, my God.
This is the first year I don't have NBA League Pass. And I'll say, like, it's because of watching these games live and the amount of even on the screen real estate they give to the betting line. I don't want to hear about it. I don't get this off of my screen. Don't talk about it.
Is it on the screen?
Yes. They put the betting lines on the effing screen now.
Yep.
I haven't
And
noticed
the
that.
announcers
I haven't
talk
noticed that
about it.
on the Celtics games. That
All
they do
the
that?
well, it's on the crawl on the bottom, and then they do in-game ads that like
Yeah,
overtake
it's
it.
so
I mute
gross.
them. I mean, but you have to be on your remote, so you mute these ads, and it's just like exhausting.
It's crazy. It's the end times, literally.
Yeah.
With that said, let's head into the fun half.
It's the end times.
We'll see you in the fun half.